But here's the ripple effect. So let's just say here we are. We're on the start of the roller coaster. It's going up. Everything's beautiful. This kid's 18. Another Liverpool development miracle, just like Trent, just like, it's like we've unearthed this gem. What if the ripple effect is that it negates the need to buy Jude Bellingham?
Right then, Chris, let's dive into a ripple effect that's been on your mind. You brought this one to the table, so thank you for that one, Chris. But it's about a player that is exciting a lot of people on Merseyside, less so Everton fans, more so Liverpool fans. And it's Bajcetic, who has come from nowhere, really. And certainly in the Everton game, and I think... So my angle on this, and this is going to annoy Liverpool fans, I'm sure, is a bit calmer, drifting towards negative if you're not super positive. But actually, the truth is, I'm just trying to kind of stay calm, stay on my feet.
Temper
with this
expectations.
one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Been 3 or 4 matches.
Exactly. Well, because I think it's easy to go that road, and I think there's some trappings here. But Bajcetic in that game was fantastic, and he feels incredibly at home at this level, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that he did, first of all, maybe the fastest 0 to 60 I've fallen in love with a player in my life. When you see someone like that, I don't know, do you have one like that where it's like it was 1 or 2 matches and you're just like, this is my favorite player?
Do you know, quite a similar player, actually. I'm a sucker for a guy who's slow but plays in midfield and makes the game feel slow.
Yes.
I always have a feeling on football that you have players that make it look like you're playing in fast forward, or they're playing in fast forward, and then players who just slow it down and calm it down for everyone. And I wanted to be that guy because I was slow, but I wasn't. But the players like that could do that. There's a guy called Ali Fowlin, who everyone who knows my channel, everyone who knows me, will know that he was my guy. He was a QPR player, beautiful left foot, incredible vision, 3-touch player. Very, very much like Thiago, and so like the other players I love are like Pirlo and Paul Scholes, and as I say, Thiago Alcantara is Riquelme, yeah, of course, just gorgeous players who know a little bit too much, and so they kind of see the past before you've seen it, and those are one of the wonderful things when you're at a game when you go, why has he made that? Oh, I love an and that's what and Bajcetic, do you know what? I think he's a bit more all action than that, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
He's got some vision.
So the first thing that he did that I noticed watching the match and then looked at some of the heat maps just to sort of confirm my suspicions is that he freed up Andy Robertson. He actually did do the funneling that you're supposed to do, and the sort of that midfield is responsible for allowing Trent and Andy Robertson to move forward, to get their crosses in, to be the dynamos that they are. And that's one of the reasons why Liverpool has been so open to counters and open to goals this season, is that they just seem to have, that kind of mechanism has broken down. And he immediately, you can see he's just all over that left wing, filling in for Robertson as he's bombing forward. The other thing he does is not wear shin pads while playing DM, which I think is just an absolutely boss thing to do, and don't understand. He was getting like stuck in, and I was like, watch out, man. You're 18. It's probably because Thiago sort of wears his socks that way.
Yes, maybe.
That's the sort of connection right there, is that Steph really does seem like the 2.0 of Thiago to me, where it's like this all action defensive midfielder who also has this incredible field vision. And I've seen other people compare him to Xabi Alonso, which is pretty erotic to me to hear those words put together.
Yeah, he's another one of those examples.
This is a kid who's so athletic and he's so graceful at the same time. So he's got some of Thiago's creativity, but his sort of most used move against Everton seemed to be a figure skater leap into a kung fu outside the boot clearance. And I was like,
wow,
you're not supposed to be able to do this more than once or twice. He's doing like 2 or 3 times. But here's the ripple effect. So let's just say here we are. We're on the start of the roller coaster. It's going up. Everything's beautiful. This kid's 18. Another Liverpool development miracle, just like Trent. Just like it's like we've unearthed this gem. What if the ripple effect is that it negates the need to buy Jude Bellingham, and that the rise of Bajcetic is makes it so that you take the money you were going to spend on Jude Bellingham and you essentially use that as Coutinho money? So Coutinho was sold for 142 million, and they wound up buying Van Dijk and Allison for it. Essentially, completely rebuilt the club with those two purchases, the buying a new spine of the team. And Liverpool need more than just one player. You know, obviously they also need to move some guys out. But what do you think about the idea of taking multiple bites at the apple rather than putting all of your chips on Bellingham, who admittedly is already world class, not much older than Bajcetic, and is an England international and is going to be a huge star. And if you miss this opportunity to get him, you may never get it again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like he's when I'm watching him, like you say, there is an element of Thiago there. I think him playing alongside Fabinho allowed him to sort of be a different kind of box to box, but he's nowhere near the goal. So it's more sort of width to width, if that makes sense. And being able to be a bit more hectic in terms of going and getting the ball. And if you watch him, he wins a lot of tackles. He does feel like that kind of player that is really irritating. And you're thinking, how's he either wriggled through that with the ball, or how has he got the ball? I thought I was fine. The concern I would have is if people are going a little bit too early on this. Now, I think he's a wonderful player, but I also looked into his stats, and his stats are fine. His stats are absolutely fine. But I think the sort of context and the environment of which he's thriving is not actually the sort of the environment that their end goal, gets to, if that makes sense. So like often you will see this when a team is struggling, they will look around and they'll look to the substitutes bench and go, is the answer there? And then they'll look to the youth and they'll go, is the answer there? And when they look to the youth, like that's fine, because you'll give them a free pass. And people will have me wrong when they're thinking I'm not rating Bajcetic. I rate him. I really, really do. I just think, as much as that's a Merseyside derby, that's a terrible Everton team who played badly, and in particular a team that could have offered more in midfield, but had so little higher up the pitch that they didn't know who to pass to. And so in terms of making those tackles and stopping them, from that point of view, that suits Bajcetic. And from the other side of it, in terms of able to use the width of the pitch and play those passes, again, it's not his fault. You can only be as good as you are against the players that you're playing against. And he's definitely good enough to dominate a game against Everton and this midfield, especially when they're playing as narrow as they are. But I would say that as much as you're saying putting all your chips on Bellingham, you've got to be careful in terms of putting all your chips on Bajcetic.
Yeah.
Because I think Curtis Davies was... Curtis Davies? Am I saying the right
Curtis
name?
Jones. Yeah, but I was
Curtis Jones. Curtis Davies. Yeah, I'm getting my centre backs.
I watched two Curtis Jones matches and I was like, "That's Pirlo." That's
it. Yeah. So there's a phrase on my channel where we go, "One must beware hubris," and it's very true. I think in this instance, just because that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy as well, and to put on a guy who I think the difference, say, with the Bellingham's box to box, but he wants to get into the box and score goals and be higher up the pitch. Bajcetic is a little bit different to that. And also when he's got kind of Fabinho by his side. Now, he's looked great in other games as well. So again, I sort of ram home that point that I think he's awesome. And he's 18. So it is so frightening. But what we do know is that players... success isn't linear, and especially in football. This is the thing that I think is so interesting with everything that we're going to keep talking about, is that there are almost like thoughts ingrained in us all now at this point. And I think we're going to get onto it. We're going to talk about Jesse Marsch and the manager situation, which is so juicy. I can't wait to talk about that. But you can kind of go, oh, we're struggling. We won a game. He's young. He's the answer. We're okay now. Off we go. And I don't think that is the smart way to go about it, personally. I think Bellingham's proven it for a good few years now. And what you really want is those two together. And I think elsewhere, you're pretty much set. For me, if I had that money, and this is the problem as well with the ownership.
Don't know. We don't. Yeah. We don't know what the budget is, and if it's allocated for Bellingham, or if it's allocated for other players that were in pre-contract agreements with that Liverpool has historically done in this sort of ownership period has been like, oh, we've had this guy locked down but he can't come in January. He's coming in the summer. But you're right.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and I know I'm contradicting myself here because I think Bellingham is that guy, and I think you only get it's like Haaland for me with Bellingham, because I think you're going to get 10 years of someone who's just I think is wonderful and impactful in a very different way to Haaland. Haaland scores goals and is brute and scary, but if the game's not kind of working for him, he can't go and grab it, and there are so few players that still do that. And I think, look, Pedri in that Barcelona system is one of those kind of players. You could say a similar thing about Gavi, but I think Pedri's above him at this moment. But Jude Bellingham, I feel like, is one of those players. I saw him at the World Cup a couple of times, and I was just like, wow, like this is sort of like you're a young lad and you're playing like you're playing a school game where you're getting a bit annoyed and go, well, give it to me and I'll sort this out. So I think it's a kind of for a club that can't compete time and again in terms of spending the money that Man United are inevitably going to be able to do, Man City have been able to do, and Chelsea are currently doing. I just think you can't miss that moment. I think actually the Coutinho element of it is if you could get him and you don't.